They said no one should visit her hut after midnight, because that's when the smoke rises, and the dead begin to eat. In the quiet village of Omoroko, where the wind carried whispers of the dead, lived a widow named Ngozi. Every night, long after the crickets stopped singing, she would light her fire and begin to cook. No one knew who she cooked for, until one curious child followed the scent one night, and saw something that silenced him forever. They said she lost her husband in the war, but his spirit had refused to leave. He came every night, hungry, tired, waiting for the meal his wife promised before his death. Every dawn, Ngozi would sweep the ashes away, hiding all traces of what she'd done. But the villagers began to notice the smell of stew in a house that should be empty. Then one night the spirit spoke. "Why do you keep feeding me, Ngozi, when you should have let me rest?" She froze. The same voice she once loved now carried the echo of the grave. "I cook because I can still feel your hunger," she whispered. "And if love cannot feed you, what can?" The spirit smiled sadly. "Then feed me one last time and let me go." She cooked the meal with shaking hands, yam and palm oil his favorite, and when she placed it before him, the spirit bowed his head. The wind blew out the fire and he was gone. By morning the hut was cold, but for the first time in years Ngozi smiled, because the dead no longer ate, and the living could finally sleep. When dawn broke, the widow awoke to a strange sound, soft footsteps outside her hut. It wasn't the rhythm of a living man's walk. It was slower, uncertain, like someone remembering how to be alive. She rose, trembling. Her cooking pot from last night still steamed, though she had not lit the fire. "Is it you again?" she whispered. The pot bubbled louder as though answering. That night she cooked once more. This time she added his favorite, smoked fish and palm oil. When she finished, she placed the food by the doorway and waited. But instead of silence, a man's voice spoke. "You keep me alive with what should have buried me." Tears filled her eyes. "I only wanted to feed your memory," she said. The spirit stepped closer, his eyes hollow yet kind. "Then feed me no more, my love. Each meal holds me to this world, and binds you to sorrow." The next morning, the villagers found her fire cold and her pots turned upside down. But near her hut they saw two sets of footprints, one ending halfway to the forest. They say she followed him there, and finally they both vanished into the dawn. And since then the women of that village whisper when the wind smells of stew, that love never dies, it only learns how to let go. For 7 nights the village slept uneasily. Dogs barked at nothing. The river whispered like a grieving woman. Some said the widow's spirit still walked, carrying a pot that never cooled. But one night a young boy named Sei followed the trail to the forest. He had heard that the woman's ghost cooked there, for the man she loved beyond life. He wanted to see if love truly could outlive death. She looked up slowly. "You shouldn't be here," she said softly. Sei stammered. "They say you cook for the dead." She smiled faintly. "Not for the dead, child, for memory. For the part of love that refuses to forget." Suddenly the fire flickered blue. A hand formed from smoke, the same spirit she once loved. But this time his face was peaceful. "You kept me alive, now let me rest," he said. The boy watched as the widow nodded through tears. She placed her pot into the fire one last time, and as it melted into ash, the spirit disappeared with the rising smoke. When dawn came, Sei ran back to the village shouting, "She freed him! She freed him at last." Years later, when Sei became a man, he built a small shrine by that forest path. Not for gods, but for love, the kind that feeds the soul even after death. And whenever the wind carried the scent of smoke and palm oil, the villagers would whisper, "She is still cooking, but this time for peace." Love doesn't end in the grave. It finds new ways to be remembered. If this story touched you, don't just scroll. Like, share, and subscribe for more African tales of faith, love, and the unseen. Please follow me for no reason.